All right. So I think this is what our third webinar now that we've done so far. So we're getting a little bit more used to doing this, but we're still working at it. It is definitely a work in progress. But hey, for everybody that is on right now, thanks for joining. And um, yeah, so today we're going to be talking about our latest blog that we just pushed and then going over some questions, what we've been working on for the last week, because we're not just sitting around doing nothing. It sounds awesome to do that sometimes, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's not
Wish.
really our deal. So let's see. I'm going to kind of switch this up here, so I don't need to be doing that. There we go. So now we can have this viewed a little bit differently and give you guys some entertainment while I'm switching screens here. But all right, so just quick introduction. My name's Jason. I'm the CEO and founder of Tarvent, and with me is Derek, who is um, jack of all trades in many different areas. We both kind of are. So Derek is kind of the lead UI programmer, building everything that you see on your screen. He's one of the founders, and yeah. So and he answers a lot of support questions. So
Yes.
yeah. So at least you can put a face with the name Derek when you get support tickets. So again, small company, but we do big things. So, all right, let's get into it. So, latest blog. Latest
I
blog
think
we've got.
we're gonna do the company updates
Oh my
first.
bad.
We
So we're
we always do that. I
yep.
did that like the first webinar,
Yeah.
and then yeah,
It's like, what's the point
the
of having an
joys.
outline if you're not going to read it? But then there's me who I have an
Yeah.
outline. I did read it, and I still skip. So yeah. So I guess before we get to the blog, I'm just too excited to get to the blog, I guess. But all right. So the big thing, the company update. So one of the big things that we pushed last week was a bug fix for multivariate
Okay. So like,
camping. Hi.
oh, I think your connection cut out for a little bit,
Oh,
or maybe it was mine. I don't know. So
okay. So yeah, so multivariate is one of the bugs that we had fixed last week. It's kind of a bigger bug, but anyway, so we had fixed something in there. So now the reporting is a lot more accurate. We had a problem with how the reporting was showing up, and that was all affected by some other things that were going on. Without getting into all the details of it, um, I just don't want to bore you guys with that level of detail. But anyway, so multivariate is working a lot better than it used to be. So um, just to get into what that actually is for people that don't know, multivariate emails, it's kind of like A/B testing, except it's more like A B C D E F G. So you could do lots of different variations. And in Tarvent, um, we allow up to 10 combinations. So you can have, maybe four subject lines and two different content variations. So between those two, you have eight combinations. So we kind of mix and match all of those different combinations, send them out to your test portion of your audience. So you'll say, just for ease of numbers, that let's say you have 100,000 people you're sending an email to, you might want to say, I'm going to send out my 10 combinations to 10% of my overall audience. So you're going to send it out to 100,000 people, or I'm sorry, 10,000 people. And for that 10,000, we're going to see which variation or which combination of subject line and content work the best, based on what you're looking for, whether it be clicks or opens or whatnot. And then based on that, then a winner's picked, and then that's sent out to the remaining audience members that are going to get the email. So that's what multivariate is. In Journeys, we call it optimized email. So it's same principle, but yes, we did a fix on there just to make that a lot more accurate, and it's a lot more optimized as well. So it runs quite a bit faster. So yeah, so that's one of the improvements that we did. We've been making a lot of little improvements because, again, we really want to make sure that the system performs extremely well. And once it performs really, really well, which it has been, but we have found a couple areas that we still need to improve, and that actually was gets to what we're working on right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over the first one, Derek, and then I'm going to let you go over the next two, because then
Okay.
you know more about that stuff. So so the audience improvements. So right now, if you have a bigger list, I wouldn't say big, but if you have a bigger list, so let's say you have 90,000 contacts in your list. When you go to an audience right now, that the list of contacts renders a little bit slow. We know why it's rendering slow, and we're fixing that now. So unfortunately, it always seems like the fixes that we want to do, they should be isolated and good to go. But unfortunately, in this particular case, it kind of affects a few different things. So we're working on doing that fix now, so that once that fix is done, even if, because we're all in a shared environment, so it's shared among everybody that's using our system. So we don't have isolated installs of Tarvent that you run on. So because you're running shared, when we fix this, it's going to affect everybody, which is awesome. So I like those kind of fixes, because you fix it once and it works for everybody. Doesn't matter if you have a small audience or a big audience, it's going to impact you no matter what. So we're working on some improvements there. That's going to, by doing that fix, it's going to improve some just overall performance of the system as well. So that's what we're working on now. If everything goes well, that'll be released this week. Hopefully there's going to be two things released this week. So that's the first one. I'm gonna let Derek get into a couple other ones, and I'll probably hit on the last one here that we're working on. But Derek, I'll hand
Yeah.
it off to you, and you can, because you've been dealing with the next two with support tickets as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. So the whole reason that the contact performance improvements or just loading that contact list came up is because we've had a highly requested feature to do a bulk delete. So in our tool right now, you can select up to, I think it's 20 contacts and then do a delete on that. But several of our customers want the ability to delete, let's say they have a segment of 10,000 people, they want to be able to delete everyone in that segment. And so what we're currently working on that kind of introduced some of these performance improvements that we could have done is that bulk delete process. So we're working on the ability to select everyone in your group or segment and to be able to delete those contacts. And on top of that, it'll be driven by the rules of the segment. So if you're in audience and you're in the contact list, you can do the advanced search to search for contacts based on any given criteria. And so this bulk delete will also work with that advanced search. So anywhere you can do rules to filter contacts, we're going to add the ability to bulk delete those contacts to make it a whole lot easier to clean up your list.
yeah, it's a painful
So
one to add, only because that's how
yeah,
we make our money, is off of contacts. But we also know that as much as we want to make money, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work well, there's no point. So yeah,
yeah.
so we have to add that bulk delete in there just to make it easy for you guys to manage.
Yeah, and then just coming from the support side too, I know you guys have requested other bulk actions like adding tags or adding to group. So we're starting with the bulk delete, and then eventually we'll work on the other bulk actions. But the bulk delete will kind of solidify how we're going to get those processes to work. So then eventually we can add those other bulk actions without it being too big of a deal. So
Yeah.
that's the bulk delete part that we're working on. And then after moving on to the next thing we're also working on, we're not just working on one thing at once. It's always a lot of things at once. So it's a very, very fluid environment. But the next thing would be the RSS campaigns. So we had to remove them temporarily from the UI just due to issues we were having with RSS campaigns. And honestly, it was just due to the reporting functionality or capabilities we had with RSS campaigns. So originally an RSS campaign, you'd set it up to send, let's say I want to send it every week. And so our system would run it and send that RSS campaign every week. The problem was is you'd go into the campaign report for that RSS campaign and it would be a cumulative report. And so it was really hard to identify which send was producing which results. And so we decided to remove it temporarily to get that fixed. And so with these RSS changes that are coming up, you're going to be able to see for each send of that RSS campaign, you'll be able to see the stats for it. So you'll be able to see the bounce rate, delivery rate, open rate. it'll just be much more clear and much more intuitive, because the way we had it earlier caused more questions than it did solve problems, which is just why we removed it temporarily. But yeah, we're working on those RSS campaign changes to make it easier for you, and also just to make it so you can understand exactly what's going on each time that RSS campaign is sent.
Yeah, that was definitely a fail on our side. So we missed the boat
Yeah,
on that one.
live and
And
learn.
yep, live and learn and just make better. But there's no pride here. We're just we're just trying to fix things and make it so it's more useful to people. So yeah, that was kind of a bummer, but we're going to make it better. So we figured out a super cool way to do it. We've been working on the UI for it and getting that design, so it's going to be easy. So basically, like Derek said, that campaign report you see right now, you're going to be able to see that for every single time that the RSS email was sent. So you'll see all the numbers, the bounces, opens, clicks, and all that stuff. So every send will act like it's its own campaign. So gives you just a lot of detail per send. So yeah, that was an unfortunate one, but we just, like Derek said, we had to pull it just because it was easier and too many questions, and so it was a bust on our side. So we're getting better at that. The last thing that we're working on, so we're not just working on bug fixes. I know it sounds like lately we've been working on bug fixes. I mean, the domain stuff that we did, I know we talked about that for 2 weeks, and now it's being mentioned the third week. But the domain was a new thing that was getting added, and we're seeing a lot of people starting to use that. And I think we've got one or two questions on that. But then the next thing that we're doing, this will be a huge one, will be inbound webhooks. So we are going to make it so you can you can either create a contact or insert a contact. So you can create or insert a contact. You can also update an existing contact if they are there, or you can just do one or the other. So it'll do an insert only, an update only, or an insert or update if the contact exists. So we're going to allow a few different options. But we're making sure that this will work with like Gravity Forms and WP Forms and a lot of the different plugins that people use for WordPress and many other different sites that are out there. You'll be able to use these inbound webhooks. So we'll just give you a URL. We'll show you what a sample call looks like. We're going to give you a curl command for you guys that know how to use curl. Just it's a command line utility that you can just execute and send a call to us to make sure it works. So yeah, you're going to be able to do a number of different things with that. Well, not a number of different things. To be either able to create or update a contact. So that's going to eliminate the need to use third-party integration tools like Zapier or Make or whatnot to get your data into our system from your different forms. So now if you're using our forms, then you obviously don't need to use the API or the inbound webhooks because that's already tied together. But anyway, so that's the newest enhancement that we're going to be adding here, and that will hopefully be done. I mean, I'm praying here, but I'm hoping that we can get that done next week. So if all goes well with some of the other stuff, the bulk delete and the RSS stuff, so if those things go well, then we're going to move on to the inbound webhook.
Yeah, and I was just going to add on to that. Just, I know this has been a pretty highly requested feature and support. So if any of you guys that are watching are wanting this functionality, you guys have any specific needs or something that you really wish we'd have in this functionality, just reach out to support, and we can take that in consideration when we implement this. We have our own ideas of how to make this super useful and make it as easy as possible to implement, but I know it's completely different when you start using it versus thinking about using it. So if you guys have any suggestions, just reach out, let us know, and we'll definitely take that into consideration when planning this out.
Yeah, because you've got this week. So get those comments into us and the feedback to us as fast as possible because we're going to be pushing that sometime next week, hopefully. So that's the goal. Other than that, it's not on our list, but there's one thing I want to get feedback on from people, and either you can do feedback by chatting with us here in the webinar, or if you want, just leave a comment on YouTube or whatever. But we'd really like to know about AI features. So we have some ideas on AI features that we're going to be doing. I'll get into that more a little later, but if there are AI things that you want to do, let us know. We'd be interested. We've seen what some of our competitors do. And we like some of the ideas. Some of the things that they've done seems like a gee whiz feature, like they're just doing it more to impress maybe their investors than it is to actually be useful to a customer. So we are not the type of company that just implements new technology just because it's cool. We want to implement new technology because it's useful. And I blame my background on that, being an R&D guy that started out a while ago out in the Bay Area creating technologies. It's cool. New technology is definitely cool, but we want to make sure it's useful. So if you have ideas, please let us know. So now with that, now we can get on to the blog review. So I kind of jumped the gun before, but now we're there. So all right. So this last week's blog, yeah, we're on Tuesday. Yeah, last week's blog here. I blame age, or maybe something else. I don't know. But yeah, so last week's blog. So the first name in the subject line versus none. Does personalization deliver? This is actually a super good topic because both Derek and I have been asked questions about this in the past. And I can't tell you how many times I see it, going through, because I actually do go through my junk mail folder, going through the junk mail folder and seeing the personalization. I actually use that personalization to kind of tell me that, yep, this is junk or it's not junk. So that's one of the things that I personally do. But yeah, so with that, Derek, why don't you kind of jump in and give your thoughts on, kind of what you had posted this article. So you should be the expert on this. So what did you find as you were researching for this?
Yeah. So overall, I kind of just want to put a blanket statement on this blog. And that's just that personalization is key to email marketing nowadays. So before, you could send an email blast and just send an email blast and you'd see results. It'd be as easy as just sending a bunch of emails to a bunch of people and you could get results from that. Now it's not so easy because people are so used to getting emails in their inbox that you kind of have to change things up. So the more you can implement personalization into your email, the better. And personalization, and this blog kind of goes into it, but personalization isn't just simply putting their first name in the subject line or putting their first name for dear whoever. It's more than that. It's more about based on their behaviors, based on their interests. You show certain content that identifies with the contact that's receiving it. And so, yeah, personalization is more than just replacing friend with their first name or customer with their first name. It goes much more beyond that. And so in this article, it kind of gets into the topic of, should I put the first name in the subject line or not? Is it worth it nowadays? And there still are use cases. There's studies that say subject lines with the first name in the subject line can increase the open rate up to 26%. But there's kind of a caveat to that, because if you don't have relevant messaging or stuff if the messaging isn't tied to them, then that open rate obviously will drop. So take that with a grain of salt, but the first name in the subject line can't help. And so on top of that,
I was just going to say, this kind of goes back to my comment about the gee whiz thing. I mean, just because the functionality is there, in the beginning when this first came out, obviously it worked really well because people are like, holy cow, this has my first name in it, so it must be more legit. But now it's more of a gee whiz feature because pretty much everybody supports personalization. I can't believe that when we first released back in the day it's called IX campaign, but back then we didn't even have personalization in the very beginning. It was just sending out email, and then we added personalization a little bit later. But that was many, many, many years ago. But yeah, so I just kind of think, this is becoming more of that gee whiz thing that, if you just do the first name, it really doesn't do too much anymore. You have to get kind of beyond that and do some super cool things, which you'll be getting into here. So
Yeah. Yeah. Because on top of that, like even from our personal side, when I go into my inbox and I see, hi, Derek, and then it has some message after it, if that message isn't personalized towards an interest I have or a previous behavior that I had, then to me it's just like, oh, okay, they're just sending another email and putting a first name in the subject line. So, like, a perfect example would be like, hey, Derek, we're having a sale, a spring sale. So to me, that's super generic. All they did is they're having a spring sale. They put my first name in it to make it seem a little more personalized. But at the end of the day, I still know this is just it's a generic email for everybody. But if I get an email that says like, "Hey Derek, you left an item in your cart," or "Hey Derek, I saw that you attended X event," and it has something based on a behavior that I performed or an interest that I have, I'm much more likely to open that up because it's based on something I did. So it's an email specifically for me. So that's kind of just an example of like how you can use a first name in a subject line and it not be personal, and then how you can and it still be personal. So it's
yeah, if
just
we
it's
had like
important.
50% off of twin tip skis, I guarantee you would open that
Yeah.
email. Or for me, it's like 50% off of tools that I want. And then, yeah, that would definitely open it. But yeah, just my name, everybody does that now. So
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of leading off that, it's like if you use their first name and it's super generic, it can cause trust issues, especially if you don't have an opt-in that's very explicit. So like let's say someone or another case would be if you have a really old list. So you haven't sent to somebody in a really long time, and then all of a sudden they receive an email that has their first name in it. They're gonna kind of be a little weirded out by it because it's like, how do they have my information? And especially nowadays, everyone is very concerned about privacy. So it's you kind of just got to be careful. The main thing is you really need to have explicit opt-in. So
yeah,
don't send to old lists. Don't send to an email address that you just happen to stumble upon or you bought or purchased or rented or whatever else. It needs to be through a sign up form or through verbal communication, just something that explicitly lets the person know that they opted in to receive that email. That will be the best bet in that case, at least for the trust part of this. So, and yeah, just on top of that, we have double opt-in. So it's a good thing to enable that. Double opt-in just reaffirms that the contact wants to receive your emails. So if you want to build that additional layer of trust, then yeah, definitely consider enabling double opt-in.
see, that's one thing I was going to mention. So the double opt-in, I know this is off topic because we're talking about personalization, but it is weird that in the US, double opt-in hardly ever gets used. But now if you're in Europe or pretty much every other country out there, it seems, they use double opt-in all the time. It's just common practice to do that. But in the US, we don't. I think US is considered the number one, or I'd have to look at the stat. So I shouldn't say that I know the stat, but I know the US is pretty high up there on spam emails being sent. So it would be good, but I also understand there's some, it takes two steps for a user to opt in instead of one. So, and in the US, we're all about let's get them in as fast as possible so we can make the sale and go from there. So I definitely understand the cultural differences, but yeah, double opt-in is definitely good. So if you're having high spam complaints, that would be a good indication that you might want to enable double opt-in. And
Yeah.
if you have a high unsubscribe, well, then you may need to look at this personalization. So, and that's one thing another thing we didn't talk about in here was personalization versus, what used to be called dynamic content. And then people started calling it conditional content. I still go by dynamic content. It's just because that's when we first built that out into our systems. That's what it was called. But basically, just inserting content that is only relevant to that person. So we used to do, man, I won't say the name of the company, but well, I can. That Scott's Lawn Care. So we used to do Scott's Lawn Care emails, And I think for them, there's like 860 something variations of that email that went out, highly personalized, all dynamic content, depending on the season, the region of the country you're in, the type of grass that you have, all sorts of stuff. They would give information based on that. And so that's one of the things Tarvin does is you can not only the personalization and the conditional content kind of go hand in hand. I mean, they're labeled as two different things basically because personalization is just inserting a merge tag, and you can have a default value if the merge tag doesn't, if there's no value. But dynamic content is more like if this equals this, then output this content. So, and our tool has wizards for doing that. Otherwise, if you really like our help system, you can go out to our help system and learn all the syntax for doing some super, super crazy things with dynamic content. That's what the folks at Scott's did. And I bring them up. I mean, this was years and years ago that we were working with them on it. But I mean, it was extremely good to use. Because I mean they got great results by doing that. But man, managing all those different variations and testing, I'm just glad I didn't have to do that. That was the agency that set all that stuff up for them. But yeah, so personalization works, but yeah, just kind of remind me with the double opt-in and then this dynamic content stuff. So maybe I jumped ahead, but
No, I think
I
it
don't like
all,
to stay quiet too long.
yeah, all ties together.
Yeah.
So personalization, yeah, there really is not too much of a difference other than just the block of content you're inserting for conditional content versus just a word or some value for a merge tag.
Yeah, I kind of blame our industry for separating those two things out and calling them two different things just so they could say, hey, I have two features instead of one. So, I mean, it's all the same thing, but
Yeah.
I know it works a little bit different. But anyway, I think it just
Yes, then
go for it.
yes, then just to wrap up this blog review, there are some interesting stats, or I guess just more studies that I found that are correlated to having the first name in the subject line. So the first one kind of already talked about, where the subject lines with a first name can increase open rates by up to 26%, but only when paired with relevant messaging. And then the next one is that click-through rates, because if you're not caring about opens, you're caring about clicks. So click-through rates often show no significant difference, meaning the email got opened but didn't necessarily convert. And that makes complete sense because we're talking about subject lines. So subject lines are built for opens, not for clicks. And then another interesting point was just emails with poor personalization. So let's say you have the wrong first name, or you have the wrong last name, or the wrong age or something. So if you have the wrong data for the person, that can actually cause higher unsubscribe rates. So that's another thing to take in consideration when you're doing this personalization. And also just going back to how you're getting your data, just make sure it's quality, because if it's not quality, there's going to be a lot of impact on your deliverability and your engagement rate. Because honestly, if I got an email saying, hey, Jason, instead of hey, Derek, I'd be like, why do they think my name is Jason? So I wouldn't like that.
Cool name.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
well,
So, yeah.
all right. So, sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I think that kind of wraps it all up. So just, and again, with all this stuff that we bring up, I know we talk about a lot, like what you should do, what you shouldn't do. These are all guidelines. It's never that black and white. So always just use multivariate testing to test different things out. Maybe send one with the first name and without the first name, see which one performs better. But again, these are all guidelines, suggestions based on our research. It could be different for your company. So just always test.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull up an email so people can kind of see just really quick what personalization looks like in here. So I'm just going to delete this because this would be considered dynamic content or would be considered conditional content, this particular block, because it's a if not blank contact first name, then you put hi first name, otherwise you put hello there. So that's a way you can do it. So this is just a junk email. I don't know the language that's in here, but we're just going to go with it says nice things. So if we want to insert personalization, then I just click on, I should jumped ahead here, but in here, I can just go to this insert merge tag. So insert merge tag, I can pick a contact and I can say first name. So I jumped ahead here. So I should say hi, and then I want to put in their first name. So I'm going to go to contact, put the first name. Now you can leave it at that and it'll insert the first name if they have it. If you don't have the first name, like Derek was saying, you could put like dear friend, or, you could say hi customer, or, maybe you just want to make it really kind of informal and say hi there. So you could say hi there or put in the first name if they have one. Now, one thing that's different about Tarvent than most of our competitors is we have these functions. I call them formatters, but they're functions. So with these functions, and we've gone over this before, I think, but anyway, so with this function, I can format this with title case. So this title case just inserts it. So if your value for, let's say, Jason is all lowercase, and that's how it got inserted into the database or inserted into our system, we can format that with the title case. So we can put that in, click add, and this is what it looks like. So it has the syntax. You could type the syntax out if you want. There's nothing behind the scenes. It is what it is. So you see it there. So this just does title case, and it's going to insert the field first name with the default value of there. So that's kind of what that is. And then dynamic content gets into a little bit more. I'm not going to go through the dynamic content portion right now because that'll go down a whole nother trail. So we'll probably do a webinar on that at a different point. But I just want to bring up personalization. You could do that. You just look for this guy. Same thing when you're in a field, you can do the personalization. It's the same icon all over the place. So you're able to do this personalization all over. In fact, you can even do it on the from email, because we did this for another company. So for an insurance company, they sent it out and made it look like the email was coming from each of the individual customers' agents. And so you could get the from a data field and you can personalize that. So anyway, super quick, but just want to go over how this all translates into Tarvent to kind of show you how to do that personalization. And then kind of go from there. I guess the only thing I'll just show you quick, because this one is really easy, is you could put in rules for this content, so that for this particular block of content, I can just put in display rules and say display it for everybody, or add a condition that only if that condition is met, then it will display that content. So you could do that on any chunk of content. Otherwise, there's more advanced things where I can do conditional content around just a word, or around an image, or around a paragraph, or anything that you want within our tool. You can do that dynamic content or that conditional content. So yeah, just want to go over that quick to, just kind of show how it works within the Tarvent system. Yeah. So with that, let's see, get on to some questions here. So get this up. There we go. So first question. Yeah, Derek, I'll let you, you want to take the first question on email API credits?
Yeah. Yes, this is one that has come up in support quite a bit. And that's what are email API credits? So if you go into your account plan page, you'll see your email marketing plan, and then there's an add-on for email API credits. And we give every plan 100 credits for free, just so you can test out the email API. But what are those credits for is the question. So those credits are for when you're using our API to send an email. And so these emails are commonly known as transactional emails. A lot of people have moved away from the transactional name and just moved to email API. But it's basically, if you ever have gotten a password reset email, or an account confirmation email, or an email confirmation email, those emails are called transactional emails. So that's something where some other person's software would call our API to send an email to notify the customer about something they did, or something they updated, or whatever else. And so it's a very common, the email API feature is very common with software companies or like rental companies, for example, because anytime you rent something, you get a confirmation about your rental. That email would be a transactional email. And so it's any of those emails sent through our API. So any campaign or journey emails, those do not apply to your email API credits. Kind of like how I like to phrase it to simplify things is if you're sending the email through the Tarvent platform, it's not a transactional email. If you're using code or using like a Zapier action, because we have an action in those integration platforms to send a transactional email, those will use your email API credits. But anything you do in the platform will not. So just kind of to simplify things. And then in there, you
Well,
have.
actually, I want to add to that because some people ask, why is there a difference? Why do you have a fee for transactional, but the regular emails I can send it out to everybody. But the difference is that with a transactional email, it's your system is telling our system to send an email. It's in response to a transaction on your side, like Derek was saying, like you placed an order or you rented an item, or there's some account activity like you forgot your password and so you need an email sent. So your system is going to be triggering our system to send an email. Those people that we're sending those emails to may not be contacts in our system. We may not know who they are. So because we don't know who they are, we can't charge based on the contact. We have to charge based on the transactional email that is sent. So those email API credits are all based on the number of recipients that you send to. So if you send a transactional email and you're going to send it to a group of people, so you give us a list of maybe 100 people within that transactional email, within that call, that's going to cost 100 email API credits. So one credit is for one recipient of that email. So like if you forgot your password, it's only going to one person. So you're going to be charged one credit. Whereas if it were like a rental, and maybe there's two people on the rental agreement, well, now that transaction is going to go to two people. So then it's going to charge for both. Or we've had some customers that they want a BCC of every single transactional email because they have call centers that need to refer to those emails. So those BCCs, that is another recipient. So all those different recipients on the CC or the BCC, all that stuff counts as email API credits. And like Derek said, we used to call them transactional email, but some competitors are moving away from that term. It's actually a term by the federal government in the U.S. that determined the definition of that, and that's kind of where the phrase came from originally. But yeah, the email API credits, it's tough because you can integrate with our API and do all sorts of things, but those email API credits are just for that transactional email. So
Yeah.
not to beat a dying horse, but yeah, just figured I'd add my half cent or whatever you want to call my that worth of knowledge. So anyway, just
Yeah.
want to add that to it.
Yeah, that's a good point though, because that also has come up in support. It's like if I'm using your guys' API to get a campaign or to add a contact, does that count towards my email API credits? And the answer is no. So it's only if you're sending a transaction. And to
Yeah.
get really technical, if you know our API documents, it's the mutation called create transaction. So that's the one that would cause the email API credits to be used.
Yep.
But that's just a good point to bring up because that has come up in support. And with that, we do have like storage limits on how long we store event data. And again, this is just talking about the date and time that the events occurred. So when you send a transaction, we have a list of events that happened for that transaction. So when it was opened, when it was clicked, when it was delivered. And so those date and times are what we limit. So for the free credits is a 7-day storage limit. So we'll store those date and times for 7 days. And then once those 7 days are over, all you'll see is a total. So you'll see how many times it was opened, how many times it was clicked. You just won't be able to see the date and times that those events occurred. So that's what that that event storage is all around. And then the only other question that's come up with email API credits is how often do they reset? So they reset every month. So you basically buy credits you buy a credit limit per month, and then we charge you every billing cycle. You'll be charged for that credit amount again. So it's a use it or lose it type thing. So once you buy those credits, you need to use them, and then the next month they'll reset and you'll be billed for those again. So yeah, that's how those email API credits work.
All right. So contact status. So I'll read the question. I'll let you want to answer this one because I know you just answered this one recently. A contact shows a status of complaint. Can I set it back to active? So what do we mean by complaint? And then how do you set it back to active?
Yeah. So if you see complaint in your contact list as a status, that means that they reported your email as spam. So in Gmail or Yahoo or whatever else, they opened your email and then they clicked the little button to report as spam. And then Gmail or Yahoo reported that spam back to us. And then we updated that contact status to complaint. And currently we don't allow you to set it back to active. And this is it's to protect our mail servers, but it's also to protect you. Because if you get a spam complaint and then you send them another email and you get another spam complaint, that is like a huge no-no with ISPs. So when they see that, that's a major red flag, and that's when they'll start taking action to block IPs or block your domain or do whatever else. And so if you have a contact that reported your emails spam, then right now we just don't allow you to reactivate it.
Yeah, because that goes against like CAN-SPAM, California Protection Act, and GDPR. I mean, once that gets reported as spam, it's really tough to get that reactivated. There are certain situations where we'll do that, and that actually came up because one of our customers, they had an older gentleman that reported as spam, not understanding what that does, and so it was a mistake, and so he complained that he wasn't getting the emails. And so in that case, we did take care of that and remove the block on there. So put them back to active, but that's not something you guys can do. It would just be you reach out to support, and we need to see proof that happened, because that opens up all sorts of legal liabilities and everything else. So we want to protect us, and we want to protect you. So next question. The system all of a sudden won't let me send an email that I was allowing before. Why? So I'll take this one. So we made a change. In this change, I think we talked about last week as well, but we made a change. So now the unsubscribe link is required. You cannot send an email without that unsubscribe link in there. We had it that way a long, long time ago, but as we worked with enterprise customers wanted to have their own email management, so they didn't want to have an unsubscribe link in our system. So that since changed, and so the laws, or not the laws, but ISPs are way more strict on that. So now we put that back in as a requirement. So you might have been able to send email before and it was fine. Probably shouldn't have, because you didn't have an unsubscribe link. Now we just make sure that you have one. So pretty straightforward. Next one, let's see. Why can't I configure a new CNAME record for my domain? CNAMEs. So the CNAME record for your domain. This has been a question that's come up since we released this new domain stuff for the mail from. So CNAME record, you can set it up. You just can't do it for your base domain. So like if I were to set up Tarvent.com, I can't do the CNAME that points to our MX I think it's like share 2023.trvt.io. So you can't set that up on your base domain. So we can't do that. If I were setting up Tarvent, I can't set up a CNAME record with just the @ symbol for the host or empty for the host. So it's just the whole domain is now pointing to that. So most DNS servers will not allow that, or name servers, whatever you want to call them, won't allow that. So when you're setting up your sending domain in our system, we highly suggest never using your main domain. So if you want to use that, if it's a dedicated domain just for sending, we can help you out on how to do that. You wouldn't use a CNAME, you do it a little bit different way, but we can tell you how to get that done. But 99.9% of the time, you're going to set up a subdomain. So instead of tarvent.com sending email, we could set up email.tarvent.com or e.tarvent.com. Whatever is at the beginning, that would be the subdomain. So email or e would be the subdomain. And for that, then you can set up a CNAME that goes out to us so everything verifies and it's all good. So just can't do it on the base. There's technical reasons for not being able to do that. And unless you're a DNS person, it's going to be a little bit on the too technical side. So I think we'll just kind of skip over that for now. So let's see. Oh yeah. So we had a question, or was a comment from our previous video. Somebody was asking about AI features. So they wanted to actually use they wanted to use AI to generate content that had merge tags already in it. So again, this goes back to my original statement earlier, original request earlier. If there are AI features that you want, please share them with us. And when you do, it would be extremely helpful. You don't have to, but it would be extremely helpful to help us understand why you want the feature. Not because you're trying to talk us into it. We just want to make sure that we implement it correctly. And the only way for us to implement things correctly is if we understand the why. So otherwise, it just is difficult and we can miss things. Kind of like the RSS thing. We implemented that and we kind of missed some stuff on there, to be honest. And so we're going to go back and fix that and make it as nice as it should have been from the get-go. But if there are AI features that you want, please just explain why you want them so we can understand how best to implement those within the system. So that was one thing that came up. The other thing is, why is the send email and send optimized in Journey? Why are those separate? So that's a good question. Derek, do you want to take that one or you want me to?
You can go ahead.
All right. So send optimized. So let's see. I'll come over here. I'm going to share my screen here, and so I'll go back here, share the screen, and so we'll go into a journey here, and I'm just going to continue without saving. So in here we've got a send email, and then we have send optimized email. So why did we separate those out into two different action types? Well, the reason we did is because there is a lot of complexity that goes around it. So from on this screen, it looks fine. It's no big deal. On this, on both of these, the edit email is fine. You can go to edit. There's no settings for multivariate. If I go to here, I think send email 1, maybe that one isn't. So let me go back into this one, and then I'll go here. So now in this guy, we have multivariate settings. So these multivariate settings, there's a lot of stuff here, but that's not the reason that we didn't separate it out. And this is most companies probably won't tell you the why. They're just going to tell you that's just how it is. But I like to explain the whys. Just like I ask for whys, we will also give whys. So the reason is because once you have a journey running, so that's when it gets really complicated. So once a journey is running and you've got people going through this journey, if you decide to change a send email, if we put it all into one and you decide, okay, I'm going to take this email and now I'm going to make it a multivariate and do that. Now, how do we do our reporting? Reporting is going to be really difficult to show, well, this is what it looked like when you had it as a non-multivariate. Now, because you changed it to multivariate, now we have totally different type of reporting that's going to show up. And so the reporting and the processing of how contacts flow through it, gets to be really complicated. It's more so just the reporting. So because of that, we kept things more simplified, just to make the user experience better. So make it the experience better for you, so you understand things a little bit better on there. So more so it just didn't get confusing. I mean, it would get confusing to you, and it would definitely get confusing to us on how to report that information in a clear and concise way. So
Yeah,
um,
because I was thinking on top of the reporting, it'd just be really hard for us to determine at what point do we say, all right, now, so let's say 20 contacts went through the send email node, and then let's change to a multivariate. So do those first 20 contacts count towards the win criteria, or what happens to those 20 contacts that were sent the email before? So yeah, it just kind of adding on to the complexities of it. It'd be really hard for us to communicate to you guys as users what's all going on, because
yeah.
there'd be a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we wouldn't be able to convey in the report very well. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep what hair I have left on my head, and adding that
Yeah.
sort of capability would be, I swear it'd be gone. So yeah, so that one's a tough one. Same thing goes with the go to and join. It's kind of the same idea. They asked about the go to and join as well. Those would be a little bit easier, but we kept them separate just because of how the management of that goes. So um, it was just something that we decided to do, and we didn't just decide it on our own because we woke up and felt like, hey, let's just do this. We did look at what our competitors do, and we don't look at our competitors to try to cheat and figure out, oh, this is what they did, so we're going to do it. We'd more do it because when people move over to us from a competitor, we have to have some similarities. Otherwise, that learning curve is going to be really, really tough. So we try to have some similarities, but also have a lot of differences. And if you've been in Tarvent, then you're going to realize that we have a lot of differences that other people don't have. Um, so anyway, so that's kind of I think. Let's see. So I jumped ahead. So let's see. How can I add another user to my account? You want me to
Yeah, I
share
got
my
it.
screen again on that one?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I can do that here. So we'll
Yeah, I
switch.
think this question just comes up because people are getting used to using our system. Um, but yeah, to add a new user, you just go into your account. So yeah, where Jason clicked in that left toolbar, uh, go into your account and then go to users and security, and then you click the plus button to the top right of the users table. And then in there, you can give a name, email address. You can even send them a little message, and then you can assign a role to them, which roles control what they have access to within the account. Just I
Yep.
won't get into like all the functionality roles, just so you guys know what roles are for.
Yeah. So the other thing with this is when you add a user, all you're doing is, like this shows, is you're inviting the user. So we haven't actually created the user or done anything. All we've done is send an invite with a special link that they click on, and then they can register. And the reason we do that is because they may already be a user in our system. We're not going to let you know that per se, but they may be a user already in the system. So by sending that invite, they can log in with their existing user, based on the email address, and then they can our system will associate your account with their user because they may have other accounts that they have access to. So there's a number of different reasons we do it, but yeah, to create a user, it's just creating that invite. They'll get the email and go from there. um, the only other thing that it didn't get asked here, but this partner user, why do we have this? So I'll just explain that really quick. Partner user has no functionality. Just put it bluntly. So there is nothing behind the scenes that it does differently. The only thing that it does is that when you look at your list of users, we will show you that there's a user that's a partner user. They're external to your company. So if you're worried about security and privacy and data protection and all those different things, this helps you identify which users have access to your account that are not employees of your company. So they could be an ad agency or marketing firm or a consultant or what have you. And so that's what this does, is just lets you see who's an employee versus a partner that is working with you, so you can control access to that, to your data that way. So there's that one. So then another question that came up on here is affiliate. Do we have an affiliate program? Heck yeah. Got to have an affiliate program, right? So affiliate, to jump in and see what the affiliate looks like. Once you log in, you can become an affiliate, fill out some information. We've got a video on it. We explain how this stuff works. Fill out the application. The one thing that people kind of mess up on when they do this, we put a warning in here, but still kind of gets missed. You need to use an email address that is not a free email address. So free email addresses like Gmail, Yahoo, Comcast, I guess can be free. But so with those, you cannot use a free email account. And that's just a policy thing on our side. We want to make sure that all of our affiliates are good affiliates. They're not promoting bad stuff. Having a free email account, they're easy to come up with. You can just go out to Gmail, create an account, and you're done. So we're really looking for affiliates that are doing this as a business. Hopefully they have their own website, or they have their different channel websites. They're providing that information. So you're able to go in, fill this out, and do what you need to do there. So once you do fill that out, I should go back to here. But once you fill that out, then we'll review the information, approve it, and then you're in the system as an affiliate. So this just kind of goes over those tiers on the payouts. Start at 20%, go up to 25%, and then eventually you end out at 30% commission for the life of every account that you sign up in there. So the only thing, my user is not set up as an affiliate, but if you are, then there's a little drop down that'll show up at the top up here. That'll let you go between this dashboard and the affiliate dashboard, so you can kind of see your different stats for the affiliate stuff there. So, miss anything on that?
No, I just wanted to add, if you guys want to sign up as an affiliate and need help with marketing materials or just ideas, just feel free to reach out. We do have a brand kit on our website. So if you go to our website and you go to the footer, then you can go to our brand kit to kind of download all the logos that we have. But if you need any other marketing materials or ideas, we're here to help, because if you're growing as an affiliate, we're growing as a company and we're helping more people. So that's what we prefer. So we want everyone to get to that powerhouse tier. So
yes, we want to pay everybody $1 million a month. Love to be able to pay everybody $1 million a month that's an affiliate. So and with that, like we said, marketing material or whatnot, or if you have a podcast and you're talking about different email marketing platforms and want to have me or Derek on that podcast, let us know. We'd be more than happy to join and help out in any way we can. Because like Derek said, it's a win-win for both of us. You make more money, you become successful, and in turn, we become successful at the same time. So win-win situations like that are what we prefer, and we're going to help you as much as we possibly can. So with that, we made it under an hour, so that's pretty good. So I still talk a lot. Got to work on that. I can't help it. It's just how I am. Maybe it's because I'm just sitting here and I have nobody yelling at me telling me to shut up. So yeah. So I guess with that, as always, make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. It helps us out. So please do. And you also get notified of our next webinar. So that is always a good thing. And then fill out the form on our website, submit questions to support, what have you, on our website, tarvent.com/webinar. You can go there, fill out the form. Make sure you ask the question. We've had some people that just fill out the form. They just put their name and email. You don't need to have your name and email on there. I mean, it's great. We appreciate that. But, ask whatever questions you want. Why I'm wearing this color shirt, I don't care. Ask whatever question you want to ask, and we'll be happy to answer them. Also, make sure you follow us on all the different social media platforms, because everybody likes getting a ton of alerts. So please follow us on every platform possible so we can send out a ton of alerts for everything that we do. But no, just follow us. Again, it helps us. It lets other people know that, hey, there's actually people using Tarvent. So that's always a good thing. And our next webinar is going to be next Tuesday, May 6th. So I did not check that date, so I'm assuming that date's good. But yeah, so May 6th, Tuesday at 10 Mountain Standard Time, because we're in Colorado, so we're going off of that time. But we'll be on again. So if you don't want to just hear me talk about random stuff, or Derek talk about random stuff, which I think I've been pretty good. I haven't been talking about too much random at all. But
Not too much.
Anyway, ask questions. Let us know, why did we do something? Why, it may seem really stupid to you why we did what we did. So ask. We have no problem answering that. I think that's about it.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thanks. And we'll see you next week.